All right, y'all, we're going to get started with hitting approach. This is our last session for the day. You can see we're out in the tunnels now. If you struggle to hear as I back away from this to show some things, just put that in the chat. We're monitoring that as well, and we'll make an adjustment if need be. But we want to spend some time talking through hitting approach and what that looks like on a baseball and a softball side. Here's the key. Everything that we're going to talk through is a really good starting point for every single player. If you've been in the program for a longer period of time, some of this will be review. However, we want to talk to you guys about the adjustments that you can make as well. Okay, realistically, our zone process of hitting is awesome on the front end to learn who you are as a hitter and where you thrive and to recognize the plate and where the ball is actually crossing. After you've gained that recognition and you're learning what your approach is, there might be certain times in the game where you're just seeing the ball really well and it looks like a beach ball and you don't have to cut any zones in a hitter's count and you're able to just drive every single pitch. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But we also want to be we want to be in a position that as we get older and pitchers get better, that we can still have an approach in order to be proactive at the plate rather than reactive. And ultimately that's our goal, is that we as a hitter, it's the one sport that we're on offense and we don't have the ball in our hand. Okay, so our job is to be proactive as a hitter rather than reactive, meaning we want to set up our at-bat in a way that we know or feel like we know what the pitcher is going to do to attack us. So that way, when they do, we're in a position to maximize our production from that point. Okay, so the first step is seeing and recognizing the plate. Okay, so you can see here what this plate looks like. Okay, we have 5 12-inch softballs straight across. We have 6 baseballs straight across. Okay, the plate distance is exactly the same as 6 baseballs from corner to corner. The 5 softballs will span a little bit farther than the plate, but our approach remains the same. The only difference between baseball and softball in our approach and our zones is if we're talking zone 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in softball, or 1 through 6 in baseball. That is it. Okay. If you're a right-handed hitter, zone 1 is always going to be your inside corner. If you're a left-handed hitter, zone 1 is always going to be your inside corner. So regardless of which hand you hit with, inside corner is zone 1 and your outside corner will be zone 5 in softball. In baseball, that will be zone 6. When we're able to take the plate and break it into different categories, it gives us the ability to recognize where the ball is actually crossing. So step 1 is when you take BP, feel free to lay 5 or 6 balls down across the plate and call out the zones as you hit the ball. Okay, what you'll find is a lot of times hitters who haven't done this, you are typically 1 to 2 zones off, meaning the ball is crossing here and you're saying 4, okay? Or it's crossing here and you're saying 2. The most common flaw that we see is that most players think that they crush the middle in pitch, but realistically, you're hitting this ball and you're saying 1, and it's not middle in, okay? It's very hard to get to middle in, but a lot of times we think that we're getting there, okay? So recognizing based on where you stand and where the ball is crossing, what zone the ball is actually crossing in is huge. If you watch Major League Baseball, you would have seen last night, Nick Castellanos strike out on a pitch that was inside, and he knew immediately that it was not a strike. Okay, they have such a good recognition of the zone, and our job is to have the same recognition. Okay, so step 1 is learning to recognize the plate itself, and we break that down into 5 zones or 6 zones. From here, it's recognizing count by count how we adjust. Okay, if you're a good hitter, you might make adjustments game by game. If you're a great hitter, you're going to make adjustments from one at bat to the next at bat. Hey, he beat me on this or she beat me on that. I need to make an adjustment. If you're an elite level hitter, you're going to make adjustments based on every single pitch, the count that you're in, and what you need to do to execute in that count. So our goal as a program is to make sure that our hitters adjust pitch by pitch, okay, to different locations, different pitches, what they're looking for, all of those aspects. Okay, so when we look at this, when you are in a hitter's count, and our hitters counts, you might want to write these down if you don't know these or these are new to you. We consider the following counts to be hitters counts, meaning that you as a hitter have the advantage. Those are 0-0, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 2-1, and 3-1. Okay. Pretty much every count that you have more balls than strikes and less than 2 strikes is considered a hitter's count, as well as 0-0. Okay, recognize that in an 0-0 count, you have 0 pressure on you. That does not mean that we want to take the first pitch. Sometimes, but if you can drive that first pitch, there's no reason not to. Okay, but you have 0 excuse to not take your A swing, your best swing that you have on the first pitch of an at-bat if you choose to swing. Because you cannot strike out on the first pitch of an at-bat. It's impossible. So if you take a 2-strike swing in a hitter's count, that's when the coach is going to get on you about your intent. Okay. And that's the main focus, is what's our intent? What are we trying to accomplish with what we're doing? And in an 0-0 count, our intent is to drive a ball. Okay. So this approach is designed to help you with 2 things. Number 1, it's designed to help you increase early count or hitter's count slugging percentage, meaning your ability to hit for extra base hits, to hit the ball really hard. And on the flip side, it's to increase your ability in 2-strike counts to increase on base percentage, or how much you're getting on base. Okay, so our mentality completely shifts if we're in a hitter's count versus a 2-strike count of what we're trying to accomplish. Does that mean we'll never have an extra base hit with 2 strikes? No. Does that mean we'll always hit it hard in hitter's counts? No. But that's what we're trying to do. That's what our focus is. Okay, so when we're sitting in a hitter's count, in general, we want you to start with one of 3 approaches. But it's important that you know all 3 of these approaches so that you can adjust to the pitcher that you're seeing too. Okay. Approach number 1, really simple. Let's say we're a right-handed hitter. Okay. So we'll put this bucket over here in the batter's box. So you're a right-handed hitter. Okay. You can look middle in. And when we look middle in, what that means is we're going to take the 2 zones on the outside of the plate and we're not swinging at them. So any ball that crosses on the outer third of the plate, we're not even looking there. Okay, we're not looking to hit it there. We're going to make a pitcher execute a pitch over the outside corner. And if he doesn't, and he misses back over the heart or inside, we're ready to jump that pitch. Okay, so it takes the pressure off of you of having to cover all 17 inches of the plate and shrinks that to about 12 to 12.5 inches that you're trying to cover. So look at it like this. If you played basketball and they suddenly made the goal bigger, you'd probably make more shots. So for us, it's the same mentality. If we take the plate and we make it smaller, we should probably hit the ball harder, right? Because we're not looking to cover as much. We don't have as big of a task in front of us. Okay, so that's option number 1. This is what we call our middle in approach, where we cut the outside. All right, option number 2 is our middle away approach. Same concept, except now we're saying, hey, if he blows me up or she blows me up on the inside, good for them. I'm not gonna hit that ball hard right now. They're chucking. I'm looking for something middle away that I can drive. So now you get a ball over the heart towards the outside part of the plate. Now we're looking to hunt that, and anything that busts you inside on the hands, we're going to take that pitch. Okay. And again, this is hitter's count. So you're 0-0. You do this, they throw a ball, you're 1-0. Your approach doesn't change. They throw a ball, you're 2-0. Your approach doesn't change. Okay. You get to 1-1, maybe we change a little bit. Okay. So recognizing your count of when to adjust is important. And then the third main approach that we implement here is what we call cut the corners. All we do is we're still eliminating 2 zones, but one's on each side of the plate. So this approach allows us to look over the heart of the plate and not worry about having to cover the corners. Okay. When we break this down a little bit further, 1, it's important that you recognize which of these strategies is best for you. Okay. Which one puts you in a position to drive the most balls based on your plate coverage with the bat? What do you hit the best? Okay. That's your starting point. From there, though, it's important to recognize what the pitcher's trying to do. For instance, if you're facing a guy or a girl that is absolutely chucking, right? They're throwing, it's one of the harder throwers that you're going to see all season. A lot of times those players aren't quite as accurate. So they are a great player to implement this approach where we're going to cut the corners. As you know, umpires are sometimes good, but most of the time not very good. So we can't count on them to be great. What that means is if a pitcher is not consistently throwing strikes and then suddenly they paint the corner, typically they don't get that call. You earn the corner by throwing more strikes. When the umpire gets in the habit of calling strikes, now you throw that pitch, they're going to call it again. But if they've called 8 balls in a row and that guy paints the black, they're not getting that call. Okay, so this approach against a hard thrower is really good because it forces them to throw more pitches. It forces them to work over the heart of the plate, which is exactly where you're looking to drive a ball. So your ability to lay off the corners there is huge. Okay. If you're facing a soft thrower, a lot of times you get that lefty that's just pounding away, right? Away. Well, some of you would say, well, let's look middle in. If they miss, I'm going to drive it. Well, that's great. But again, remember what we said earlier today. We want to have our approach in a way that we know what they're trying to do, not necessarily that is just good for us. So if they're going to throw away and we decide we're going to look middle in, we're going to put ourselves down in the count over and over again. So our key now is to do this. You want to throw away? That's great. I'm going to hit middle away. So one adjustment I can make is if normally I stand here on the plate and I'm normally a middle in guy, well, I just moved 4 inches, right? So why don't I get up on the plate a little bit more? Okay. Now these zones don't have to go to the opposite field because based on where you just position yourself in the plate, you've taken zones 3 and 4 or 3 and 4 here, and you've essentially made them what was your 1 and 2. So this is how we be proactive, right? We know what they're going to throw. So we're going to adjust ourselves to cover what they're good at. And we're going to make them now throw in slow, try to bust us inside. Because what happens when a player tries to bust you inside? 1 of 2 things is going to happen. Okay. I guess 1 of 3. They're either going to hit their spot and then we're in trouble, but we're in a hitter's count, so we don't have to swing. Right. That's rare though, that they execute that pitch perfectly. Option number 2 is they miss farther inside. Boom. I'm on base. Love it. Right. I just took a hit by pitch. That's awesome. Okay. Because I'm not going to move. And option number 3 is they miss back over the heart of the plate, which is exactly what we're looking for. And that ball is not coming back. Right. We just hit an absolute tank missile. Oh, good save. Okay. So when we are proactive, we put ourselves in a position to really dictate and determine what they're going to try to do. Because if they're up on the plate, that pitcher is going to call for a ball inside. And then when they can't execute that, we do damage. Okay. Our job is to make pitchers do things that are outside of their comfort zone consistently. And by doing so, we're going to position ourselves in the right spot to be effective. Okay. The rarest strategy that we would implement is the middle in approach, because in today's game, there are not many pitchers who strategically work inside very often, not at the youth level. Okay. So as much as a lot of our players are like, I'm going to implement this approach and I'm going to eat, that's awesome, but you're not going to get that pitch as often as you'd like. Okay. So this can be your standard go-to approach, but as soon as players on your team or your coaches notice they're working away, and they say, hey, we need to change our approach, we're looking middle away, you have to be disciplined enough to adjust what you need to adjust to cover those zones. Okay. So although we want to train in the one that we really like, you need to train all 3 recognition wise. So you're in a position to maximize the production that you can have. Okay. So that would be our hitters count approaches. When we move from our hitters count into a 2-strike count. Okay. So 2-strike count. Now we're looking at 0 and 2, 1 and 2, 2 and 2, 3 and 2. Okay. Those are our 2-strike counts. Any count that has 2 strikes. It's crazy, right? Okay. When we look at that, now we have to make a different adjustment. And this one's not nearly as fun for us to make. But typically what happens is once players get to 2 strikes, umpires love the sound of their own voice, which means that they're going to, on anything close, they're going to ring you up. Okay. They're not paid per hour, y'all. They're paid per game. So the quicker they can get out of that game, they're still getting that check. Okay. So our job is to recognize that they like calling strike 3. It's a fun call to make for them. So rather than cutting any zones, we're no longer in a position that we can do that. We actually have to add. Okay. So the typical addition is 2 balls. So we add 2 balls from the baseball side. We add 2 balls from the softball side. And my gosh, does that look like you got to cover a lot on the softball side? It does. And you do. But here's what we found from talking to softball coaches, from going to softball games, from seeing it, is typically softball has a wider strike zone than baseball. Okay. Not the plate being wider. That's the same. And it's supposed to be the same. But umpires call it wider in softball. And the amount of times that I've heard, I struck out looking, but it was in the other batter's box. It crossed the white line. Yep. and you better cover it. Okay, so that's your task, is to cover that piece. You're good. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so in our 2-strike approach, when we look at this, we're adding 2. So on the baseball side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We would add 7 and 8 to the outside. Softball side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to add 6 and 7 to the outside. Now, most umpires, this is exactly what they do. If they're going to add plate or add width that they're going to call a strike, it typically happens on the outside corner. Okay, some of that happens to be with the position that they're in and the vision that they have. But not every umpire is the same. So just like our hitters count adjustments that we want to be able to make, we have to be able to make similar adjustments with 2 strikes. So the key is we're adding 2 baseballs or 2 softballs. Ideally, and your starting point will be 2 on the outside. But if you're in the 4th inning of a game and that umpire keeps calling strike 3 on the inside corner, and you feel like he's just, man, he's a little bit wide on both sides. Okay. Tell your teammates, talk to them. We're going to add 1 on each side. So now we're 0 through 7 on baseball. We're 0 through 6. Sorry, 0 through 7 or 0 through 6. Now we cover both. Oh, they're only calling inside? Rare, but it might happen. Now we cover. Okay, so the adjustment is simple. In a hitter's count, we subtract 2 zones. In a 2-strike count, we add 2 zones. So think, which one is going to give you more opportunity to be successful and drive a ball hard? Hitter's count. So when you step up and it's 0-0, you are in exactly that. Have good intent behind your swing. If it's in your zones, be selectively aggressive to drive a ball. You get to a 2-strike count. This is why our mentality shifts from slugging to on base. Now we just got to find a way on base. So if they throw this pitch, that softball umpire would call a strike. Oh, well, that actually hit me, and now I get first base. Okay, so our ability to do this is really important, but our ability to not jump out of a pitch that's going to hit us with 2 strikes is vitally important. Coach Buffy said it earlier. How many times does somebody move out of the way of a hit by pitch, and then the next pitch, boom, strike 3? Okay, that's just baseball and softball. That's how the game works. Okay, so your key is, if you're going to find a way on base, then find it. We're going to look to the dugout, pound our chest because we're going to fight with 2 strikes, then we better fight with 2 strikes. It's not for show that we're doing that. It's because we are locked in, bought in, and we're finding a way on base. Okay, only time to move out of the way of a hit by pitch in a 2-strike count. Okay, really simple. If you're sitting 3-2 and it's going to be ball 4, you don't have to get bruised for ball 4. Take your base. That's fine. You can get out of the way. Okay. Other than that, wear it. If it's going at your head, yeah, you can move. We got to protect that a little bit. Other than that, wear it. But by wear it, that doesn't mean that you have to take it off of the boniest part of your body. Okay. Turn. Give a little attempt to move, but we can attempt to move right into the ball. Okay. We just have to turn, find a meaty part of your body that you can take that off of, and now you're on base. Okay, so that is our hitters count approach and our 2-strike approach. Subtract 2 or add 2 based on the zones that we would potentially be covering. Okay, on average, hitters counts, you're going to have roughly a 200-point higher chance or a 20% higher chance to get a hit than in a 2-strike count. Okay, now some hitters are anomalies and do better with 2 strikes, but for the most part, most damage is done in hitters counts. Which means pitchers, we got to get ahead. But hitters, if they're going to throw ball 1 and ball 2 to start your at bat, now you're in a position to eat, right? And to drive doubles, to hit some bombs, to do the things that you want to do. Okay, so that is our typical zones. Now, if we were to scaffold that down a little bit, okay, so our players that are, maybe we got some 8s, 9s, and 10s in here, our 11 you guys or girls, this is what we do. Simple. Rather than zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we just look at it like this. We got in, middle, and out. So you want to cut one of those in a hitter's count. I'm looking middle in, covering all this. I'm looking middle away, covering all this. I'm cutting the corners, covering all that. Okay. So you have an opportunity to just split the plate in thirds and choose to cover 2 of those 3. All right. If that's a good starting point for you because it's brand new and you want to get comfortable there before you get into zone numbers, that's absolutely fine. But the key is building your own plate recognition so you know what it is you're working with and working on, so you can make pitch to pitch adjustments in hitters counts and two strike counts as needed for your success. Okay. When we look at those, the other piece that we want to go into, okay, we've talked through our two strike approach, but the other piece that we want to go into is just contact point or point of impact. Okay. A lot of times when you guys come in here and you're placing the tee down to hit, you come in, grab the tee, put it right here, put the ball on it, and we're hitting from this point. Okay. If we were to look at that, that is directly even with the middle of my body or my belly button. Our goal is to make contact with the ball out in front of our body. That's where our power happens. Okay, that doesn't mean that our form is off or our mechanics get lost and we're lunging shoulders or feet, but that allows us to get extended through the ball. Based on the location in which you hit the ball, that's going to change the extension or the point of impact that you're going to have. So we have about 30 of these sitting at extra innings. They're in the speed and agility area. They're in a box. You can grab these whenever you come in. If you're a player who you just feel like you get jammed on everything, you get everything late, everything you hit is to the right side for a righty or the left side for a lefty, this is a great thing that you can utilize when you come in. All you want to do is take the PVC pipe and angle it across the front outside corner. Because now what we see is on an inside pitch, that's about the contact point that I'm trying to find. On a middle pitch, that's about the contact point I'm trying to find. On an outside corner pitch, that's about the contact point that I'm trying to find. So what it does is it gives you a visual, not only of the zones that you're going to try to hit in, but also the point of impact that you're trying to match based on the location of the pitch. Okay. If you're a lefty, crazy, same thing, just flip it, right? So now we still have middle, outside, and in that we're covering. Okay. Anything between those, same exact thing. It just follows that path of the PVC. Okay. So when we look at this, contact point is huge. Point of impact is huge. Obviously hitting is going to be approach and mechanics. Okay. We're not going to go into mechanics right now. This is all approach. Okay. But this gives you an outline of how to step into the box with a plan, how to adjust that plan to the pitcher that you're seeing, how to focus on your contact point to get the most out of barrel production that you can find. So what do we not cover? That's the real question, right? We got two strike, we got hitters. Okay. The only thing in the middle of that is what we call bridge counts. Bridge counts are 0-1 and 1-1. Those are the two bridge counts in baseball and softball. They lead us to either 1-1, another bridge count, or they lead us to 2-1, or they lead us to 1-2. And the difference between 2-1 and 1-2 is one of the biggest discrepancies between any possible counts that could go from one to the other. So when we look at that, all we're doing is going to depend on what you are as a hitter and what your coach tells you. Okay. To some guys or girls, we can cut a single zone. So we can go 5 zones across on baseball, 4 zones across in softball. For other hitters, we just want to cover the whole plate at that point. Okay. I would tell you to start there. Don't put yourself down 2 strikes without taking the bat off your shoulder. Be aggressive. Umpires like to call strikes in the youth game. If you can cover the whole plate, you get to an 0-1 or a 1-1 count. Don't be as picky as you are in a hitter's count. So that's the only other adjustment that you should make. Okay, but the key is recognizing what the pitcher is bringing, what they're doing well, how you can get them out of their rhythm. Okay, the only other piece in a 2-strike count to go over real quick before we get you out of here is you hear and see all these coaches oftentimes talk about how we need to adjust with 2 strikes. What's that look like? Well, we got to get up on the plate really close and we got to choke up really high on the bat. And, you know, we got to pre-stride and eliminate all movement. Okay. There is value in all of those things. Okay. I'm joking about them a little bit, but there's a lot of value in doing each and every one of those, but not every player is going to thrive doing all of those things. Okay. So as a program, we do not expect that you get up on the plate and choke up and pre-stride and eliminate all these parts of your swing. Okay. If you have a strikeout problem, then we might ask you to do those things. But if you can prove that you can make consistent contact in 2 strikes without doing those things, then we don't have a problem with it. Our big thing with 2 strikes is that you pound the chest, that you step in with that type of mentality. We would prefer that you get up on the plate solely because you increase opportunity for hit by pitch. and you increase the amount of pressure that a pitcher feels when they try to throw inside. But I would tell you that you can do that anyway. So what I would tell you, if you're a hitter right now and you're locked in, like, you know what balls you hit well, you know your approach, don't let what I'm about to say change where you are. Okay. Because every hitter's different. If you're finding success with the approach that you have, stay there. Okay. But if you're new to this and you're like, okay, that's all good information, but it's a lot, I don't know what to do. Here would be my recommendation. I would tell you on the front side, you're going to want to look middle away. From middle away, you're going to want to take yourself and you're going to want toes on the line. From that position, you have taken the middle and away and really put it in a position where you're now cutting the corners as far as what your bat can get to. So you're challenging pitchers to throw you inside. And if they do, because you're on the plate, you get hit. And if they throw it the other way because they're afraid to hit you, you get balls that you can drive. The key to doing this is you have to value faith over fear, right? We cannot be afraid to get hit. We have to have faith that that gets us on base if it happens and the next guy's going to do something productive. Okay. We have to have faith that when the pitcher misses, you are able to drive this ball over the heart of the plate, that we're able to take this pitch and not get handcuffed because we shouldn't be swinging at it in the first place. Right. So if we start here on every pitch, now the pitcher feels that pressure throughout the entire game rather than just with 2 strikes. So I would start there, adjust where you're standing, get a feel for recognition. Okay. The first drill that I would recommend everybody do, you can do this, like I said, with team or by yourself. You come in with somebody that's just front tossing, set up the plate, set up the zones. After each swing that you hit the ball, call out what zone it crossed. If there's a hitter on deck, they're going to then tell you if you were right or wrong and where it passed. If there's not, then mom, dad, coach, whoever it is that's throwing to you, maybe teammate, they're going to tell you where it crossed. Step 1 before any of this matters is gaining the knowledge of where the ball is actually crossing. Okay, building your own understanding of plate discipline and plate awareness to where when that ball crosses the plate, you know what zone it was in. I think we have a resource that would help with this too. We just talked about it. Win Reality, right? Where you can actually track and see exactly where the ball crossed the plate. And there's a game mode on there to click at exactly the location that the ball crossed and see how off you are. Okay, so a great way to increase your plate discipline and understanding is through Win Reality. You see exactly where it crossed so you can lock into your routine and your things here. Okay, so everything that we have designed and put together for you is really developed to help you thrive in the areas that you talked about. All of that said, it's dark when I put this up. You can still see me. All of that said, okay, that is the basics of our hitting approach. As you get into it more this offseason with your coaches, feel free to ask questions. I know they'll get into more approach training in the hitting training at Extra Innings as the season gets closer. Right now, it's a lot of mechanical based things that they're going through and increasing your ability to truly hit the ball and do so for power and for hard contact. Okay, but that will be touched on as you guys get to that point. Okay, if you are a high level player that you feel like I don't need to cut anything, I'm crushing the ball right now, that's awesome. But still work it because you will reach a time in your career where you can't cover every single zone. Okay. The last piece that I would say on the hitting side is this: make sure that you don't have a moving target of what success looks like for you as a hitter. Okay. I deal with a lot of hitters that talk about, man, I had a bad game. I was 0 for 3. But I hit 3 really hard line drives just right at people. Okay. And then they'll go 3 for 3 and say, yeah, I was 3 for 3, but I had a really bad game. I didn't hit any balls hard. You can't have both. Okay. You have to really decide what your goal is as a hitter. And for the long term, I would tell you that the best goal to have is to hit a ball hard. Okay. Only difference in that is understanding who you are as a player. And we got some awesome slappers on the softball side. Your goal is going to look a little bit different because you're not trying to just go up there and drill line drives. Okay. So understand who you are as a player, understand what those goals are. If your goal is to hit the ball hard and you do that every at bat and you have nothing to show for it, you still had a good game. But you can't beat yourself up over being 0 for 3 with 3 line drives and then beat yourself up for being 3 for 3 when you didn't hit a ball hard. Okay. So either the goal is get on base or hit it hard, but it has to be a consistent goal that you can pull power from when you do it really, really well without beating yourself up over the result that you couldn't control. Okay. At the end of the day, our goal is to own our process, and that's process of training, process in game, and understand that continued growth in our process will create sustainable results in the outcome that we see, both personally and in our team. Okay. I cannot express how stinging excited I am to have this place packed at this time next week. We open up positionals for FAM on Saturday and BAM on Sunday. Okay. A couple of reminders before we let you go here. On the BAM side, every single player should come in with a tucked in shirt. Okay. If you're wearing a hoodie or you're wearing something that's outerwear, right? A BP jacket, those don't need tucked in. Okay. But you have to have tucked in shirt if you're wearing just a regular shirt. Okay. Everybody should be in BAM hats. Everybody should be in shorts. If you don't want to be in shorts, you want to be in sweatpants, that's fine. If you want to be in game pants, that's fine, but it's not necessary. Okay. But show up like you're ready to train. Okay. Be here a few minutes early. So when the session switches, you're ready to hop in, and have intent from moment 1 to moment 60 of that session so that we can get through the maximum amount of content that we can get through in that hour. Okay. On the softball side, you ready? This is going to be big news for some. You ready for this? You can still wear your game pants, but shorts are also fine. Okay. We do not mind if you wear shorts. That said, your shorts should either be FAM shorts or FAM colors, meaning black is fine, white is fine, gray is fine, gold is fine. I don't know if you have gold shorts, or baby blue is fine. Okay. So neutral or team colors is fine. Okay. We need to still look like a player. Okay. Meaning if you are in shorts, then the shirts at that point, okay, should not be going past your shorts. All right. Don't come in looking like you're wearing a jersey dress. We don't want that. Okay. But before you decide to just show up in shorts, your key is to talk to your coach. Okay. Your coach is going to set that tone for what he believes or she believes you guys should be wearing to practice. Okay. Program wise, we could go either way. Doesn't matter as long as you look professional. But everybody on the team should match in what you're doing. Okay. Outside of those things, okay, please be aware that when you show up, we are going to treat you as a high level player. You should treat yourself as a high level player. Our expectations will be high, but at the end of the day, this is a game, and our job is to coach you, train you, teach you while also having fun. Okay. So that joy and enthusiasm that we talked about, we expect to see that in spades next weekend. Okay. Be here, yes, to compete, but also to collaborate. Our goals are all the same. We all got to get better over the next few months, and we're doing it with people that we can call family. Okay. So our job is to do that together. Everybody's on the same side. Okay. I appreciate your guys' focus throughout today. Appreciate you guys coming to these sessions today. If you have teammates that weren't able to make it, all of this has been recorded. It will take a few hours to get that downloaded and then uploaded again. But we will send that out to coaches as soon as all of that is ready to go. So coaches, you guys can distribute that as needed to different players. And we cannot wait to see you guys next week. Okay. Make sure you send your coach, if you're not with them, one more text, just letting them know how today went. Just give a general review of the full day. Okay. It doesn't have to be just about hitting. General review of how the day went for you so they know that you were locked in the whole time. We appreciate you guys being here, and we will see you next weekend. All right. See you guys.